Hi, I'm Joe Spotswood. Can just a few of you give me a thumbs up if my volume is okay? If I need to speak louder, let me know. Thumbs up? All right, cool. I'm also gonna set this up so I can see a little bit of the chat while we're going. Amazing. Thank you for also typing that there. Yay! Well, I'm so happy to be here with you all. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm extremely nerdy about it, and I'm also so pleased to hear that so many of you are interested in it too. So I'm excited to be nerds together, little astro nerds. Admitting people to the waiting room. Perfect. So today I'll obviously be talking about the intersection of astrology and career. And let's get started by me telling you a little bit about myself. So, again, my name is Joe. I'm an astrologer based in New York, and I focus specifically on career astrology, as well as some other astrology as well, but that's really like my thing. And when it comes to supporting people through their careers, I often find that what we all can agree on is that career is one of the most false advertised part of adulting, as if it's easy to figure out and you'll be able to have the guidance in college to find your path. And I so rarely find that that is the case with the people who I talk to. So a little more about me. I call myself a former recruiter, current cosmonaut, because I love exploring the cosmos, and I indeed was a recruiter for a long time. I work at the intersection of astrology, career, and actually living in a capitalist system where bills still exist, very annoyingly. I'm also professionally gay, self-proclaimed professional gay, but hey, we're working with it. And I have ADHD, which I think is relevant context for how I approach work and meaning. Before this, I spent about 8 years in the corporate world, mostly in recruiting and talent development. So I was basically professionally curious about people's careers, and I loved that part of it. It was my job to ask people, what do you do? And I also asked, how do you feel about it? What are you most passionate about when it comes to your job? And this journey, it brought me to different industries that I didn't expect to end up in. I did end up on Wall Street for part of that, which was very on brand for some of my Scorpio placements in hindsight. You'll get to see more of those later, actually. You'll get to see my chart. It's going to be fun. But more importantly, I became a student of how people move through work, what motivates them, where they get stuck, how they make decisions, and how often those decisions don't actually match who they are. Then my Saturn return came in. I understand that a lot of you are going through your Saturn returns too. Mine was a few years back. And, as expected, it was very mindful, very demure, very chill. Just, completely rerouted my life and made it very clear that I was not meant to stay in that structure long term. So now what I do is I use astrology to help people understand their patterns, both personal and inherited, and how they show up in their careers. Not just what they're meant to do, but also how they actually function in work environments. That's a huge focus for me. How they make decisions in those work environments and how to build something that's sustainable and not just aspirational. Because again, we're in capitalism. We got to make it work. Oh, we got a Scorpio second houser here. Okay, we have definitely some career house stuff in common. I love that. Saturn and Aries the first, and the first degree in the 10th. It's been a whirlwind. Yes, it has, Victoria. Oh my gosh, you've had the Neptune Saturn conjunction come in at you. Woo! Godspeed, fellow Voyager. So outside of career astrology, my other astrology special interests include queer astrology and gender and sexuality in the birth chart. So if you ever want to talk about that, feel free to book a reading with me. I don't just do career readings. I also love to nerd out on my other special interests as well. And I do normal things too. Also, it's really cool to see in the chat that it seems like we have some true astro nerds in here. So I might I might actually use more astrological language than I would have otherwise. but you can let me know later if I'm being too advanced or not. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat. I have it right here in front of me. Fellow Mercury in the 12th house are over here. Yes, love it. Okay, so moving on a little bit to how I am an astrologer and career services professional, and sort of how this becoming my thing happened. So, my flagship product is Cosmic Career Consulting. And the way that this came to be is the career services part of my job is I rewrite people's resumes, LinkedIn's, cover letters. I help them prepare for interviews. I help them strategize for a modern job search in the age of AI. And a lot of my resume writing clients became astrology clients. And that was super fun because I already knew what was going on with them and what their goals were. And I had their resume too, so I could have it up on my screen alongside their birth chart. And them wanting to strategize using both absolutely lit me up. So I knew that I needed to pursue that. So that's how Cosmic Career Consulting came to be. If you are interested during these sessions, we can explore your talents, tendencies, and ideas for monetizing those. We can get real about motivation, patterns, what's worked in your past jobs and what hasn't, and why according to your birth chart. We can whiteboard potential paths for how to get from where you are now to where you want to be with a little bit of cosmic timing sprinkled in. We can do job search strategy. Spoiler alert, it does involve putting yourself out there repeatedly and repeatedly, and you may not want to hear that, so I'm just prepping you for it now. I can help you with career documents, interview prep, whatever you need. So, oh, and if price is a hurdle for the Cosmic Career Consulting, I do want to let you know that in my Lora booking page, I do have an offering that's like more budget friendly. It's called Your Top 3 Career Strengths According to Your Birth Chart, and it's just 30 minutes long. And you can use code AMA10 for 10% anything, 10% off anything from my Lora booking page. Okay. Ooh, dropping it in the chat. There's my page right there. Thank you so much. Yes. I wonder if I can pin that. Pin for everyone. Yes. Wow, look at me, so good at Zoom. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about what we're doing here today. So, when I was thinking about how to make this webinar a valuable use of your time, I thought about what we can do live together versus what you can find resources for online. So today's webinar will have a big emphasis on applying the concepts that you've read about online. I will do a brief intro to how to find career indicators in a birth chart. Then I will apply each concept to real charts, including my own. We will roast it. It'll be fun. I'll also speak on common transits for career shifts using my chart as an example. And I will give mini readings to 3 volunteers. Hold your horses. We will ask for volunteers later who are very confident of their birth time. I also have some disclaimers later before we ask for volunteers. So just hang on. So yeah, just the point of this is I want you all to practice applying these concepts and to have a guide that's me being there with you, guiding us through it. And I'm going to be encouraging you to drop your interpretations in the chat when we do have charts on the screen. And this is a no shame zone, okay? So don't be worried about getting anything quote unquote wrong. There's so many different ways to interpret a placement. And yeah, it's kind of like a no dumb question zone. I don't like shaming people in general. It's just not in my webinars, okay? I'll also give my thoughts on the future of work and career paths from my point of view as a career services professional. Seeing chart interpretation in real time is so helpful for me for learning. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad that y'all are on board with this plan. But first, I want to learn about you. So I devised a few fun polls for us. There's 3 questions in the poll that I am about to launch. The first one's about rising sign. So keep scrolling after you see rising sign. There's 2 more questions, okay? So hopefully y'all should see this on your screen. Oh, answers are coming in, so you do. Yeah, I want to know your rising sign. Like, who do we have in the chat? And I'm also curious to understand, where are you in your job search or career pivot status, or maybe you're not actively looking, you know? Maybe you're like low-key having an existential crisis about work and purpose because Saturn return, you know? And I also would love to know what your relationship is to the concept of dream career. And just to define that, that's if we suspended reality and you could do anything that you want for a living. So I'm going to leave this poll open for probably 20 more seconds, 15. Whoops, close the poll too early. Is there a way to pull it back up? I don't know, but feel free to drop your answer in the chat. Um, yeah, how clear do you feel about your dream career? Like, do you have a vision for it? And where are you in your job search if you want to describe it in your own words? Did anyone else's poll disappear? I hope not. I see answers still coming in. But I'm ending it anyway, so don't worry about it. I'm going to share the results. Okay. No Virgo risings. That's hilarious. We got every other type. Okay, cool. Love it. It looks like it's a tie for first between, if I'm reading this right, Cancer, Leo, and Libra. All right, strong representation there. And then as for where y'all are in your job search or career pivot status, okay, some are actively job searching. Some are like in the ideating phase for something totally different. Some of you are actively pivoting your career. It's happening. Good for you. I'm happy for you. And the greatest majority is not to brag, but Loki having an existential crisis about work and purpose. Relatable, relatable. And a lot of you are clear on your dream career, but unclear how to get there. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of you have inklings about what you want to do, but not confident in your abilities. This is where astrology can really come in handy for all of these things. We want to talk about how to pursue what feels like your dream career, and then also, I'm a very Saturnian person, also root it in reality because we're living in capitalism. But hey, we have houses for each part of career, which I'm going to expand on next. And two people answered dreams in this economy. I understand. I understand. Okay. So I just want to set the stage a little bit about the landscape that we find ourselves in as we think about career. So putting on my career services hat for a moment, don't worry, the astrology hat will come back. I just need a moment. We are not working in a stable career model anymore. Tools change, industry shifts, roles that existed 5 years ago are gone, and roles that didn't exist 5 years ago are now entire departments, like the AI team. Generative AI alone has reshuffled the whole job categories in just the last few years. So when you think about a 5-year plan, which used to be something that people used to recommend making, it's not really realistic anymore. I honestly don't think it was ever really realistic, but that's my own take. So the job title that you may be holding in 20 years maybe not doesn't exist now, which means, in summary, the takeaway is clinging to a job title as being like your North Star for your career trajectory isn't the wisest way of going about it. That's kind of like planning your outfit for a party that hasn't been invented yet. Instead, get clear on the bigger picture behind that job title if you did have a specific one in mind of like, this is what I'm heading towards. For example, CEO. I'm sure CEOs will still exist, but I think that's just a pretty common one. Just think bigger picture. What do you actually want to be known for? How do you want to feel in that role? And that's what your chart is pointing to. And now, astrology cap back on. If you want to know why things are changing so so quickly, especially lately, Uranus just moved into Gemini and Pluto is in Aquarius, both of which point to rapid structural changes in communication, technology, and how we work. So it's not just a vibe or feeling, it is in the sky. And the most important thing that you can cultivate right now is adaptability. And shameless segue here, knowing your chart with the help of an astrologer who specializes in career topics is genuinely a great place to start. So let's talk a little bit about career and the different places that it shows up in your chart. Before we do get into the chart itself, I want to reframe something. So when most people say career, they're really talking about three different things, and astrology has a house for each one, like I mentioned. So your job, your daily work life, and your bigger vocational purpose, they're not always the same thing, and your chart doesn't treat them like they are. So these questions that I've listed here on the slide are very frequent questions that people are asking during their job search. And they actually correlate really well to some of the astrological houses. That's great news because if you're figuring out, oh, well, for this question, that's actually where I'm having the most trouble, then you can realize, oh, this house in my chart is where I'm experiencing friction. And then we can dive into that astrologically. Okay, so just a quick reference for those three houses. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the second house is about how you make money and what you value. The sixth house is your actual day to day, your routine, your work environment, how you function. And the 10th is your public identity. That's like your reputation, what you're known for. So keep these three in mind as we go. If that is new information to you, then I have such an exciting resource to point you to from the Lora community, from our very own Michelle Grodnick. She wrote this awesome Substack called Your Birth Chart is a Career Blueprint. Here's how to read it. This is the QR code to access it. I encourage you to scan that and bookmark it. Oh my God, love you. Love you too, girl, because it's so good. And also, it allows me to make today's webinar more of a practicum. So thank you for making that. This article does contain the rulers of different signs. And I'm not going over rulers today, just so you know, in case you want to open it. Oh yes, this is when I found out nothing's sitting in the houses, but I know the house signs. Cool. I have empty workhouse. Two of my workhouses are empty. So we are the same. We're going to talk about how to interpret that. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Okay, so just in general, what to look for when we're going to be looking at these charts together. Patterns over placements. This is the most important thing I want you to take away from today. A lot of people learn astrology by looking at one placement in isolation, which I totally understand. That's how you start out. Like, I have Scorpio as my 10th house, so I must be meant for dark and mysterious work. But what actually tells the story is when the same theme shows up multiple times across your chart. And then as for aspects, they show where your placements get support or friction from other parts of your chart. Planetary rulers matter because every house, every sign has a ruling planet. And where that planet lives in the birth chart adds another layer to the story, including who are they talking to. And then transits are how we track timing. They're what tells you not just what your chart says, but when things are likely to shift. And I'm going to demonstrate all of this with my own chart in just a moment. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Apologies in advance on behalf of my stellium. Yes, my chart is hella concentrated. And also, as you can see, my midheaven is in Sagittarius. I'm hovering over it now, which means that I am cosmically ordained to roast myself in public. So we're all going to have a great time. Aquarius stellium twin, yes, love that. So as I go through it in the following slides, listen to how I narrate walking through the second, sixth, and 10th house connections and patterns, because this demonstration with my chart is meant to help you with your participation in the mini readings later. Okay? So before I get into interpreting it, I'll tell you a little bit about my actual career path so that you can root what you see in my chart with some real examples. But just to kind of characterize it from a big picture view while my chart's on the screen, some things that have stayed consistent include themes of intuition, themes of supporting other people's careers, a deep interest in the occult and taboo topics, music, dance, and a consistent habit of building communities of slightly eccentric humans around me. I like to call them glorious weirdos. to me, weird has a positive connotation. Okay, so now just showing my career path. So first I was born, then I started working. While I was in college at UVA, I was the co-founder and VP of talent for a mini music festival. This was a crazy choice at 19 years old, never having worked at like a formal company. I had just been like a lifeguard or like a camp counselor, worked at a retail store, or actually my first job was being a live pianist in my mom's yoga classes. She's on video. Hey, mom. But thank you for employing me in yesteryear. That's not on the timeline though. So after that, I was a headhunter at an executive search firm in NYC. I know she's so sweet. You'll probably see that because she's going to be emoting without like any control over it throughout the whole presentation. um, then I was a campus recruiter and program manager on Wall Street. That meant that I was recruiting college students and MBA students for the beginning of their career and helping them figure out where within this giant organization that has a million different departments and divisions could be a good fit for them. And also designing the programs that will help them upskill and learn the skills that they need to do those jobs. Then after that, well, actually during that, I started taking formal astrology classes under an astrologer named Sarah Barab. She's been giving astrology readings since 2001. She's amazing. This coincided with my Saturn return because I am Saturn in Aquarius generation. So COVID was my Saturn return. Mom, you look so fab. In case you haven't seen that in the chat, you just must know. Stylish diva. Okay, so I continued studying astrology and really just loved it, couldn't get enough of it, even though I'd been studying it on my own time. Just being in formal classes finally was just like exactly what I needed, injected into my veins. I switched jobs and I did talent development and communications and some other things at a hedge fund. And then layoffs happened. And it was time for me to listen to what Saturn had been trying to tell me because the timing of it was when Saturn was within 1 degree of my Saturn, which, if you know, you know, it's part of a Saturn return. So that's the background context for the chart that we're about to look at. Feel free to drop anything that you want to notice about my career houses in the chat while it's on the screen. Go for it. Again, no wrong answers. There's a million ways to interpret things, but I am going to walk us through it. So the second house is about how I generate value and income. My second house is in Pisces. It's empty, like one of our other participants in this webinar. So Pisces here means that I make money through empathy, intuition, creativity, emotional perception, etc. Also music. I am a composer. I definitely use these skills during astrology readings too. So the rulers of Pisces are Neptune and Jupiter. That is where we're going to look to next, especially because this is an empty house. So let's locate them. There's Neptune. I'm hovering over it with my mouse. It's in the sign of Capricorn. It's in the 12th house. I'm hovering over 12 right now. And then the other ruler of Pisces is Jupiter. So here's Jupiter. I'm hovering over it. It is in the sign of Scorpio up here. It's in the 10th house. I'm hovering over 10. So those are who's in charge of my Pisces second house. Now let's read into that a little bit just to kind of narrate to you how I think through it. So my Neptune and Capricorn in the 12th. So the way that I generate income is deeply tied to behind the scenes work, spiritual or intuitive service, and structures that most people can't see. Again, very related to astrology. And why I say those things is some of those are 12th house keywords, some of those are Capricorn keywords. And then looking at the other co-ruler of Pisces, Jupiter and Scorpio for me in the 10th house, this means that for me, abundance comes through digging deep, transformation, and thinking expansively about career. It's no wonder that I love having deep conversations about how people really feel about their career underneath it all, their motivations, and that I encourage them to think of broader possibilities because Jupiter is an optimist at the end of the day. Okay, next, we're going to look at the sixth house. I'm hovering over it right now. This is another empty house in my chart. I have many because, again, atrocious stellium. So here's my Cancer sixth house. Then we're looking for the ruler of that Cancer sixth house. That's my moon in Gemini in the fifth. So first, let's just talk about what Cancer sixth house on its own means. Cancer here means that my emotional and conscious state drives my productivity, like in a very significant way. Yeah, everything's emotions first for me. I just can't compartmentalize really. And I've learned to see that as a strength, even though I think the corporate world can kind of make you feel like that's a weakness. I'm glad that it's relatable to some people. Yes, ruler of the 10th house and the 12th. Yes. Sorry, I'm checking the chat. Awesome. Yeah, so my moon is in Gemini in the fifth house. Again, the moon rules that sixth house that I just mentioned, the stylized. So moon in Gemini in the fifth house means I'm interested in everything, everywhere, all at once. All of the hobbies, all of the creativity, because that's fifth house territory. It's giving ADHD, and that informs how I work daily in a big way because that is part of my conscious state, my moon. So Gemini moon is also giving recruiter vibes. Makes a lot of sense that I was always at networking events and just having a blast at these, talking to people, getting to know them, connecting them to others. That's big Gemini vibes. Also harnessing your network is big Aquarius vibes. I am a mega Aquarius, you may notice. But now how my moon fits into things is I just talk to people for a living every day about their emotions and stuff, and I love it. Finally, 10th house in Scorpio. I'm hovering over it now. We already touched on it a little bit because the ruler of Pisces is up there. So 10th house, this is my public identity. I'm known for going deep, psychology, occult and taboo topics, and emotional truth telling. I will say the thing out loud. One of the taboo topics and Scorpio topics that I'm quite public about is sexuality. You may have noticed that if you noticed my astrology handle, my Instagram handle at the beginning. Anyways, the rulers of Scorpio are Pluto and Mars. So next we look to where those are in the chart. My Pluto is in Scorpio. I'm hovering over it now in the 10th house. Pluto's also, so my public identity is basically double Scorpioed. And intensity, psychology, and taboo topics are not just themes, they are load-bearing walls. The reason why I'm using load-bearing walls language is because Capricorn's all about structure now. I'm looking over to the other ruler of Scorpio 10th house. My Mars is in Capricorn in the 12th house. Mars in Capricorn in the 12th means my drive and ambition operate largely out of sight. I work hard, but not always visibly. A lot of my hard work is about the subconscious. Music, meditation, dance, and the mystical realms, all of which are 12th house territory. Random, but do you mainly work with equal house when doing readings? Great question. I actually use both Placidus and whole house. I'm using whole house for this presentation, and I will also be using it on the example charts because it's just easier for the sake of learning. But I use both, and I see validity and truth in both, and I have a personal take on what both represent if you ever want to chat about it. I'm just going to bring it home really quick with midheaven and Sagittarius in the 11th house. Usually people's midheavens are in the same house as their 10th house, but in some cases they're not. So mine's in Sagittarius, and so my public direction is about big picture thinking and collective expansion. My work is rooted in helping groups of people, 11th house, see more possibility, which is a very Sagittarius thing to do. The ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter in my chart. Jupiter is in Scorpio in the 10th. I already interpreted that earlier when I was talking about the rulers of my Pisces second house. So speaking of the rulers of my Pisces second house, the other rulers of Pisces is Neptune, as we covered earlier. And again, mine's in Capricorn in the 12th. We're seeing repetition here. We're seeing repetition with Scorpio placements in the 10th, Capricorn placements in the 12th. And yeah, Jupiter being a really big player Neptune as well, and just these signs and houses having a lot of emphasis. So that's what I meant when I was talking about patterns over placements. Um, Now, I didn't go into aspects to each of these rulers because we don't have time, but I do want to briefly demonstrate aspects to career indicators in a birth chart. So I'm just going to do that with my midheaven and just stick it to that for time's sake. Okay. Keeping an eye on the chat as well. Oh Lord, someone is dating um, a man's with Mars Scorpio on the 12th. I wish you the best. Just kidding. This person could be totally lovely and service oriented. Who knows? Um, okay. So this is where things get a little spicy. Remember when I said I look for patterns, not just individual placements? Here's what I mean when it comes to the aspects element of it. So I'm going to walk you through those. And if you see them, put it in the chat. I guess I put them on the slide, but MC conjunct North Node twin too. Oh my God, Elise, we have a lot of chart placements in common. That's cute. I love that. So midheaven conjunct my North Node, both in Sagittarius and the 11th house. An interpretation of that is that means my career path and my soul's direction are literally pointing at the same thing. Big picture thinking, collective expansion, teaching, and working with groups of people. Not a subtle hint from you, universe. Then now I'm looking at these teal lines. This is sextiles, and it's going to my sun, Venus, and Mercury. So just remember, you can do this on your chart too. So just to interpret that for y'all, my identity, sun, my values, Venus, and the way I communicate, Mercury, are all in easy conversation with my career path, midheaven. Which is why when I'm doing this kind of work, it doesn't feel like performing. It just feels like talking. Me being myself, first house placements, is supportive to my career. Also note that my business's branding is just my name. I'm just Joe Spotswood everywhere. I could not for the life of me come up with like a business name or doing business as name. I just have to be first house. Yeah. And finally, the last aspect I want to show you, there's the square to Chiron and Virgo in my 8th house here. That's this red line. And it keeps it interesting. So Chiron is our wound, and mine's in Virgo in the house of transformation, mental health, and other people's resources. So the square to my midheaven means that my career is directly tied to healing work, specifically around perfectionism, usefulness, and worth. And my gosh, does that sound like ADHD wounds in the corporate workplace to you? It does to me. That's how I experienced it for sure. And I love sharing resources about working with ADHD with others. Yeah, which honestly explains a lot about why I ended up working with people on their careers. So now, how do you do a synthesis of this? You just sort of combine the elements that you were just talking through and notice the themes among what you were just commenting on. So putting it together, my career path is tied to collective purpose, healing work, and communication, yapping. Thank God. These aspects show how personal healing for me becomes public work. Now I'm just going to check the chat to see if I missed anything. Cancer, 6th house, comfort, family, home, being an aspect of your day-to-day routine. It's an element of what primes you for success. Working from home, yes. Ruled by Gemini moon in the 5th. You have to enjoy what you do. Yes, I do. This is a great interpretation. And it has to intellectually and emotionally engage you. Abso-freaking-lutely, Rua. Amazing. What else do we have? Okay, apparently your Chiron conjuncts your midheaven, and you always get a notification from the pattern about you being a wounded healer in your career. You're trying to pivot away from being that? Okay, maybe it's time for like a reframe of wounded healer and like looking into the positive sides of it, because it's still gonna be on your midheaven, girl. I don't know how to pronounce in Sky. Oh, in Skylopedia. So I have to do with the cosmos. So that's clever. Um, okay, how can you make it work? I'm just gonna keep it moving because I want to make sure we have time to. It's a religious encyclopedia. The more you know. I'm just gonna keep moving so that I have time to get to y'all's charts. So I did say I was going to talk about career timing and transits. So first of all, your career is not static, and you will have multiple careers. And honestly, thank God for that. And the birth chart isn't just a snapshot of who you are, it can be used as a timing tool when paired with transits. And in case transits is a new word to you, what that means is transits are the interaction between where the planets are today and where they are in your birth chart. So on the screen here, these are the transits that I see come up most often when people's careers are shifting when they come to me for a reading. It's not an exhaustive list, but yeah, Saturn returns, major one, which many of you are probably very personally acquainted with right now. Saturn returns every 29 years, and it is not subtle about telling you when something needs to change. Also, the outer planets or the nodes transiting through your second, sixth, or 10th house, these tend to bring faded feeling shifts, especially when it's the nodes, the kind where you look back and you're like, oh, that's why that happened. And then the outer planets being Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, each with very different vibes. One could argue that Jupiter is an outer planet, but I'm not really including it in this list because it's not going to be as noticeable of a, oh, we are shifting now type of vibe. So Uranus shakes things up, Neptune dissolves it, Pluto so gently burns it to the ground and rebuilds it, and Saturn makes you do the work. And finally, those same planets or the nodes making a challenging aspect, which is like a square or an opposition, sometimes a conjunction to your midheaven or career house rulers. That's often when career shifts also happen. I've seen you don't have to have a planet transiting through a career house to feel it. It could be an aspect situation. And I see that we have people in the Saturn return right now. And that's, oh yeah, Godspeed to you, Caitlin. You got this. Okay, taking a look at time, I think I might sort of just very briefly run through this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to skip it. If we have time at the end, I'll come back to it. Okay? But we want to do some live chart readings. Yes. So before you volunteer for these live readings, don't put it in the chat yet. I want you just to be informed. So first, this webinar is being recorded and it will be live on Laura's YouTube publicly. So if you volunteer, the internet will eventually be able to see your second house. Probably won't be viral or anything. It's just something to be at peace with before you drop your birth info in the chat. That's all I'm saying. Second, these are mini readings, and we're going to focus on just one career house at a time for each of the three. So it's not a full reading. I'm not going to solve your entire career in 4 minutes, as much as I would love to. And then third, this is a group activity. So participants, I'm going to be asking you to interpret along with me in the chat. And to the person who volunteers their charts, I want you reacting in real time in the chat, typing in there in response to telling us what resonates, what doesn't, what made you go, wait, that is literally my life. That's what makes this fun. Okay, so now is when Alexa and Michelle are going to pick some volunteers. And so you can go ahead and volunteer yourselves in the chat. And I'll just give some time for that to occur. Man, I wish I had the elevator music again. But yeah, so we're going to get into one of them more so from a second house angle, one of them more so from a sixth house angle, and one of them more so from a 10th house angle. Of course, you want to look at everything holistically, but we're doing them mini. Okay, I just got DM'd the first one. So let me see how successfully I'm about to shift my screen share here. Bear with me. And I'm going to pull up this person's chart. If only I could find it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so Michelle and Alexa, who work for Lora, are the ones who are DMing me. And they are picking the charts, just so y'all know. You don't need to DM me personally. So, Beatrice, Washington, D.C. Okay. 07, 19, 1992, or 16. Yeah. Okay, draw my chart. You'll notice I'm using astrocharts.com. I did that on purpose today because look, it has the names of the signs written out on the outside wheel instead of the glyphs. A lot of astrology softwares and web-based options use the symbols for the signs. So I just wanted to make it easier for you. I want to make it more colorful. Yeah. Okay. Did I draw this right? Okay, Scorpio rising. Oh, let me put this in whole sign just to make it easier for us as well. Whole sign. Okay, great. Awesome. I'm going to start with the second house for this one. And also I'm going to walk through it with y'all. Let me open the chat back up. So when we are thinking about the second house, we're thinking about money and skills. The things that the Sagittarius talents that they can employ to make money. So we'll start there. If y'all want to drop in the chat what you think are some of the talents of Sagittarius, feel free to. And I see that someone is commenting on the Jupiter trine in the 10th. So cool. And if I'm following your thought process, that's probably because they know that Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, the second house here. I love people's responses. Yes, traveling, travel for sure. So Beatrice, I believe, please insert into the chat what is resonating with you. Spontaneity and adventure is definitely a talent of Sagittarius placements. Freedom with a bunch of ease. Sagittarians are funny, fun, and free. I bet this person is all of those things. Good old mutable energy. Yeah, adaptable. So probably being adaptable, spontaneous, probably optimistic, buoyant, open-minded, up for an adventure is probably part of how this person can go about using these skills to make money. Then we'll take it a step further. Working with people of different backgrounds, that's a really good shout. Higher education, another good shout. Beatrice volunteered that I'm sorry for guessing your pronouns, but I'm guessing she lived in Europe for 5 years. Language is potentially, she's saying so spot on. Awesome. So then we look to the ruler of Sagittarius, like we did in that exercise, and we see that Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius, is in the 11th house. Oh, one more quick note. It looks like the North Node is in the second house. So this person probably is really like on a lifelong journey of figuring out how to harness these talents and skills and for their work, and also what they value and how to put that out into the world, and how to put that into community, perhaps. The reason why I'm saying community is because I'm looking at the 11th house being the location of where this Jupiter is. It's also in the sign of Virgo. So this is probably like a pretty service-oriented person in the way that they use their Jupiter skills. They probably feel pretty expansive when caring for others or being of service or being, a caretaker, just being supportive. Like maybe also Virgo's so good with details. So maybe like administrative assistance or Maybe travel planning because this person's also Sagittarius, has Sagittarius in the second house. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat a little bit, and then I'll be moving on shortly after that. Aries, sixth house, ruled by Mars and Taurus in the seventh, gives divorce lawyer. Oh, interesting. I can see how you made that connection. Interesting. Um, y'all are clocking it apparently. Opportunity and luck is abundant when rooted in community and organizing. We might have a community organizer on our hands. Also, some of those Sagittarius traits are especially enhanced by this person having their sun in the ninth house, which is a house that's classically associated with Sagittarius. So, okay, I want to make sure that we have enough time for some of these other charts. So I am going to move on to the next one, but feel free to continue to have that conversation in the chat. Beatrice, feel free to continue responding to it. Yeah, you're so welcome. Okay. Devin Hunt. Okay, that's who's next. Hmm, 7-7. That's fun. Mm, I am. While I pull this up, also feel free to drop questions into the chat. And it seems like we have a lot of really knowledgeable people in this webinar. Y'all are such smarty pantses. So maybe y'all can also help each other out if you're like confused about something, if I'm not able to attend to it in the chat, like comment on threads and stuff. Okay, I think I got that right. Okay. Devin, are you a Taurus rising? Did I type it in right? Please let me know in the chat. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Make it bright. Okay. Lovely. Okay. So we're going to look at this one more so from the sixth house perspective, which is such a good example because, wow, this person has a grand cross and the sixth house is a big part of it. Okay. And in case you don't know what a grand cross is, it's sort of what it sounds like and visually looks like. It's this X with squares all around it. Okay. So Libra in the sixth house. Let's talk for a moment before we look at the placements about how Libra energy might optimally like go through their work on a day-to-day basis. Like what kind of day-to-day work would feel supportive of a Libra energy? For example, like maybe having some sort of artist's practice to them would, just to give one. But I'll keep an eye on the chat for some ideas as well. I have a feeling that being creative in a daily way is probably very healing for this person for a number of reasons, including that they're Taurus rising. That means that their whole chart is ruled by Venus, which is a very creative planet. Also because their sixth house is in Libra, which is also ruled by Venus. And then when we look over to Venus, it's in the second house. So creativity definitely playing into this person's career in daily work is making a lot of sense. And it's probably very healing because look at this Chiron North Node conjunction within the sixth house. Perhaps healing work through creativity, and that their soul's journey in this lifetime probably has something to do with that and maybe being of service to others. Oh, interesting. And then, okay, let me not get too far from the plot. I'm going to look at the chat now. Art creation, sculptor, musician. Well, hi, Devin from the Artist Way. Oh, yes, Devin, I knew I'd recognize your name from the Artist Way little book club that we've been doing through Lora. Devin says, yeah, my sixth house is major, currently doing the artist way with Laura, and it's like blown my brain open in the best way. Yes. Day to day has to have beauty, Brittany says. It's a great point. Working with others. Yes, because Libra, right? And also the ruler of Libra being in Gemini. Yeah, working with others. Also, there's another placement in Gemini. Um, it's Mars. So just like action in a social way being one of the ways that this person makes money. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's also intellectual. Yeah, because an air sign and also the ruler of it being in an air sign. So need that aspect in relationships with others. Self-care is essential and damaging if neglected. Amen with that. Grand Cross, including North Node Chiron here. Also, Jupiter expands whatever it touches. Usually it's a good thing, but sometimes it expands you really, really needing to take care of your health and your wounds on a daily basis. Such a good shout, Beatrice. Devin said very true. Having boundaries at work. Oh yeah, yeah, especially with Libra placements because we love our Libras. We love them so much, and they're so lovable because they're so agreeable often. Gotta have boundaries, and risk being disliked for sure. Devin sticks to my routines and practically religiously. Yeah, North Node in the sixth. I love that. Libra six equals work-life balance. Hell yeah. I definitely need to look up more about a Grand Cross because I've never heard of that before. Okay. I'm glad that I brought this up because I think it's going to be really validating to you because part of your chart's journey, just me looking at it at a glance, is just trying to balance all these competing energies and integrating them um, is like quite complex. So just starting to familiarize yourself with who are the players in it and what a Grand Cross is going to be a great entryway. And I would be happy to talk about that further with you. I know a lot of people with Grand Crosses who are my clients. One of them is in the Zoom room. It's my mom. Never a subtle one. I love you. Okay, Leonie, let's do you next. Ooh. So we have all these 90s babies. Hell yeah. Um, 32. Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, Leonie, you're also a Taurus rising. Fun. Okay. So I'm actually really glad about this because we're going to have two people back to back who have the same rising, and we're using whole sign for learning. Um, so this is going to be a great example of just because you have the same signs as your second house and your sixth house and your 10th house because you have the same rising sign doesn't mean that you go about work in the same way. This is I'm very happy about this example. Awesome. Taurus rising twins. So now we're going to look at it more so from a 10th house perspective, focusing most on that. Of course, we'll incorporate other things. So, y'all, Aquarius 10th house. What do we think? And again, just to refresh on the 10th house, has to do with like career identity, your public facing roles. What are some of the energy of Aquarius that you think would be proud to like be known for? Like Aquarius is very humanitarian. I see serving others. Someone saying smooth talker. Interesting. I mean, I like that because I'm an Aquarius like mega, but yeah, philanthropist, social justice, great. Love that. Also, let's notice that there's some placements in this house. We got Mercury for sure. I can't tell if Venus is in Aquarius. Leonie, is your Venus in Aquarius or is it in Capricorn? Actually, I can solve this myself. It's an Aquarius. Okay. Cool. So the ruling planet of your chart, because you are Taurus rising and Venus rules Taurus, is in your 10th house. Okay, that's some information there. I'm going to look back to the chat. Ooh, strategist, consultant for nonprofits. I like that. I like that. Mercury and Aquarius in the 10th. Yeah, and Venus there, some humanitarian values wanting and having literally Venus has to do with what you value. I like that. Um, Leonie, I am trying to trying to pivot into nonprofit slash effective altruism. So that checks effective altruism. I don't, I love the idea of that. I don't know what those two words mean together except for the most literal interpretation of it. And I would love to learn more if you want to DM me about it or if anyone wants to explain it to me in the chat. Brittany wrote, innovative, focused on the collective, humanitarian ideals, while also a bit detached and non-emotional. Good interpretation. Might like to work in tech, social media, or humanitarian causes. Because yes, Aquarius is very associated with tech and social media because it's associated with the collective, right? And the 10th house has to do with being in public. So social media, collective, public, technology. I see where you're going with that. Or astrology. Aquarius also is a sign that's very associated with astrology because it's about the collective and what's going on with the collective, looking at it from like a zoomed out perspective. Yeah, with a little bit of distance that Aquarius is known for, right? Um, communication thrives. Creative roles because Venus is in the 10th. Influencer. Victoria's got to go. This was so amazing. Yay! I always think of 10th house as not what you do, but how you make people feel. So you'll probably be able to connect with all types of people, showcasing your uniqueness and your groundedness. That's a cool way to think about it, China. I don't know why, but I'm getting writer. Oh, I can't wait to scroll to what Leonie says about any of these. Saturn and Pisces does have marginal consciousness. So altruism reads. Literal meaning works. Oh, for effective altruism. Focus on how to do the most good, evidence-based. For example, how far can a donation go in a charity versus this one? I love it. It's very intellectual. Very nice. Very nice. Also, the ruler of Aquarius is in a grand trine with something in Virgo and Taurus, and those are earth signs, and Aquarius is in Capricorn. So just like, let's account the money, y'all. Let's account it. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to end this portion of the birth chart interpretation section. I'm going to switch the screen back over to my presentation, hopefully effectively. Let's see. I think that worked. Give me a holler if it did not. Just adjusting something. Hmm. My mouse decided to stop working. But if I'm not able to advance my slides because my page became unresponsive at a very fun time, then basically what I had remaining in the presentation was a Q&A slide. Please drop your questions in the chat. Anything about what we covered today, hopefully less so about the like individual charts from the 3 mini readings right now, but I'm interested if I explain things well enough and where I could fill in any gaps about where I may not have explained something enough. Feel free to drop that in the chat. Or if you have like a perspective that I didn't share, that would be a really cool one for us to consider about how to interpret these houses. We have some awesome astro nerds in this chat, so we'd love to hear from you. Let's see. Recently, I've noticed the element of the second, sixth, and 10th houses are super relevant as well. Yes, absolutely. I agree, especially when you look at it from a whole sign perspective. That article that I plugged earlier that Michelle wrote, which again you can find by going to Substack, finding Lora's Substack, and then it's the one about like your birth chart is a career map or something. Talks about the elements of the workhouses. Okay, Brittany asks, can you please recap again step by step how we should be thinking about when about this when we're looking at our charts? Yes, happily, absolutely. That was actually the slide that I can't get to next, ironically. But essentially, note the signs. I can see it kind of small. Note the signs in the second, sixth, and 10th houses, and then look to those rulers. So you can just look up online, like list of planetary rulers for signs. It's also in that Substack article that I've been plugging. Look at the placements in your second, sixth, and 10th houses if you have any placements in there. That's, representing energy. The type of energy is dependent on the planet there. So then you look to the rulers of those based on what sign is on your second, sixth, or 10th house or your midheaven. And then bonus points, look to aspects to those rulers. If that's too far advanced, no worries, just focus on the initial steps that I said, and that's enough information to get you going. And you can always book a reading with me to learn more from the more advanced point of view. I hope that answers your question. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Can you touch on how you interpret a retrograde planet in one of the career houses? For example, retrograde Mars in the second. Okay. So different astrologers have different takes on this. And I think that for me, I actually don't read too much into a planet being retrograde in someone's chart. The way that I would read into it is like, oh, they may go about Marsing a different way, just in like a little bit of a different way. And like they may have to circle back to something like an extra time or so. But I don't focus on it too much. I may think that and mention that in passing, but it won't be like a heavy emphasis on the interpretation. Some other astrologers may have a different viewpoint, and that's absolutely valid. And I'm not knocking those viewpoints that may be different. Okay, moving on. How do you keep yourself from going in circles when doing chart interpretations? Like everything is connected. So how do you focus on the right elements and lock into those? Adderall. I'm just kidding. Except I'm not kidding. No. So I follow the rulerships and I notice themes as I'm going around. That's how I like to go about it. Also preparing for chart readings. I like to use an online whiteboarding tool. I use Miro, that's my tool of choice. And that allows me to drag and drop like digital sticky notes to different parts of the chart. And I make an agenda because my mind, again, Gemini moon in the fifth house, everything, everywhere, all at once. I very much so relate to this question, Devin, because it is easy to keep going in circles. But the cool thing is if you keep going back to the same themes, it's probably because they mean something through repetition. Repetition shows what themes really have a lot of resonance in this chart, and those are themes that you should pay extra attention to as some of your superpowers. I hope that helps. Recheck the article on Substack. Oh, I think that was an answer. What's a good way to look at those three houses and compare it to current work versus where your career is meant to go / be? Okay, yeah. So I would think about where your, and this is related to like the dream career question, I'm assuming. But also just like, yeah, the 10th house, greater vocational purpose and whatnot versus your current work. So your current work may be wherever the friction is in your current work and where the misalignment is to your greater career calling, like what you feel that is. And most of the time, by the way, people do intuitively have an inkling of what their greater career calling is, and astrology often confirms that they were usually right. But You can actually reply in the chat here, like what is the kind of disconnect? And then we can see, is it in your sixth house? Is it in your second house? Um, yeah, so go ahead and reply if you can. Thank you for dropping that. So I'll circle back if you do reply. Now moving on to Elise. I'm wondering how if your 10th house energy makes you money and you do it every day, then like isn't that sixth and second stuff already? Um, your 10th house energy doesn't necessarily make you money. Hopefully it does. But I'm going to continue reading this question. Like to me, I feel like I want my MC to be how I'm seen and to be how I make money and how I spend my days. So kind of confused on that. That is exactly where the ideal intersection would be. We want like ideally a dream career. Again, I'm part of the Neptune and Capricorn generation. Like where are our dream careers that we were told about? Ideally, those things do all go together. But often enough, they are separate. So if you think about your current situation, if it's not what you want your 10th house to be, then you can kind of like notice the gaps of, okay, like maybe I need to try to plug this thing into my day to day work or like find a stream of income that's more relevant to that. I know that's vague because I just don't have your chart in front of me and haven't prepped for it, but I hope that this it was helpful enough. Um, Ashley, honestly, just very excited to take what you talked about here and do some independent study. Thanks, Joe. You're welcome. My question is, if you're a sixth house Capricorn stellium, how do you differentiate between your daily routine and a career as a stay-at-home mom with your business? Capricorn sixth house stellium. Um, I mean, you're what's also relevant here is what's going on in your fourth house and like the moon in your chart. So just that information alone is a little bit difficult to isolate out. I'd be happy to explore that in a one-on-one reading, but something that I would encourage you to consider just in the meantime um, is like your career as a stay-at-home mom, as a stay-at-home mom is like a very service-oriented job. And that is like sixth house territories. Like the sixth house is originally associated with Virgo, even if that's not where it is in your chart. It's a very service oriented sign. Um, okay, moving on. Thank you. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all of these, especially those that are kind of personal to their own charts because I don't have your whole chart in front of me. As for how much are my readings, they vary. I tried to make the ones that are available on Lora, like to meet a variety of different price points. The lowest price that I have on there right now is $40, and the highest price that I have on there right now is $150. That will shift with time. Um, and I do have bulk offers available for buying cosmic career sessions in bulk. Um, yeah, and it's going to vary from practitioner to practitioner. Check out my Lora booking page for that information. Second house Venus placements is a very great place for Venus. Heart values based work, abundance. Okay, just skedaddle. Okay, so it's 7:45. That's why I was halfway reading some of these as I was scrolling through really quickly because I had like 15 more messages to look through. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to all of these because our time has come to a close. So I encourage you to just reach out to me. You can DM me on social media. Um, my handle is that astrology dyke. There's a period between that, a period between and astrology and a period between astrology and Dyke. So go for it. Um, there's also links on my Lora booking page to like my LinkedIn and other ways of contacting me. So just go for it. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thanks for bearing with me through some of the technical difficulties and navigating a very exciting chat. I loved the enthusiasm from you all. You all are so freaking smart. I'm very impressed. There's were some really beautiful interpretations in the chat. And I'm so grateful that you all took the time out of your busy schedules to spend an hour and 15 minutes with me, this person who you probably don't know. That was so nice of you. That was so nice of you. So shout out to yourselves for like continuing on your astro education journey. Pat yourself on the back. And I hope to see y'all around.